So it's so nice to see you all, and it's so nice that everyone came early. So happy Navaratri and greetings and namaste to all of you divine beings. It's really a pleasure to see you. And the music that you've been listening to, some of you know it, is from the Tantrakam Devi Suktam, which is being chanted by my guru, Swami Muktananda. It's one of the great hymns to the non-dual goddess, and it's really a non-dual hymn. And the reason I wanted to play it is because his voice carries a certain transmission, which I wanted to bring into the space. And this chant declares salutations to the goddess, to the Shakti in her personal forms, but also for the goddess in the forms in which she appears in us and in the world. So, in other words, it's a chant that points out that the goddess is everywhere. And the verses say, salutations to the goddess, the Devi, who exists in the form of consciousness, who exists in the form of peace, who exists in the form of mother, who exists in the form of Lakshmi, who exists in the form of hunger, of thirst, of beauty and devotion, and sun and shade. And it describes her presence in every aspect of our life, in our physical and psychic life. So I love it because when we chanted it, it helps us uplift our sense of who we are and what our psychic structure is really about, since Navaratri is really a holiday which looks to recognize the world as the goddess and also looks to recognize our own psyche as the goddess. So some of you, I'm pretty sure, have been doing the practice. This is the 9th night, it's the final night of Navaratri. And tomorrow is Vijayadashami, which is literally means that it's the day of victory, also known as Dussehra. And for those of you who are interested in auspiciousness, tomorrow is one of the most auspicious days in the Indian calendar for starting anything. So if there's a project you've been wanting to get into, tomorrow is the day. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this program before Vijayadashami is to give you notice, in case this is a moment when you'd like to start something at a time that's going to carry it forward. So as you meditate and chant to the goddess on this night, you unleash a lot of beauty, a lot of insight. You probably also unleash some purification. I always find that at least one or two of those nights, I'm battling resistance or, physical discomfort, et cetera, et cetera. And this is very much part of the gift of Durga, because as you know, as we all know, she's a fierce energy. She's a tiger mom. And those tales that are sung and recited around this time are all tales of Durga as a warrior, battling demons, saving the world, which is something that we really use right now. So I'm hoping that our practice will inspire her to redouble her efforts on the behalf of the planet and the rest of us. And of course, she's always addressed as Ma Durga. She's the mother. And depending on how you feel about your own mother, it might be most powerful for you to think of her as Ma Durga. Or if you're more like me, you like to think of her as a warrior and as a kind of feminist icon, which she is in many ways. So the Devi Mahatmyam, the Triumph of the Goddess, which is a 700-verse poem that's recited during Navaratri, and which we're going to look at a little bit later on tonight. And we're going to, thank you, Deb. So can everyone hear me? Are we good? Okay, great. Suze said she couldn't hear me.
Yeah, we've got a couple of people that are having some audio issues. I suggest you check your microphone or the microphone icon in Zoom and select whatever audio that you choose.
Okay, perfect. So it's your fault, not ours. No, kidding. It's your computer, not ours. Meaning there's nothing we can do about it from central headquarters here. But Deb, can you put up the mantras, Sarvamangala mantras on the chat? Okay, great, Eva, thank you. So are they there? Oh, okay, this is direct message. Great. Here we go. So again, many of you know this chant. We're going to, it means to the most auspicious of all auspiciousness, to the good, to the one who accomplishes all objectives, to the source of refuge, to the mother of the three worlds, to the great goddess, we bow. And so you can close your eyes if you know the verses. If not, of course, don't close your eyes. Take your hand, your right hand, put it over your heart, your left hand on top of the right hand, and we'll chant this verse 3 times. Om Sarva Mangala Mangalye Shive Sarvartha Sadike Sharanye Triambake Gauri Narayani Namostute. Sarva Mangala Mangalye Shive Sarvartha Sadike Sharanye Triambake Gauri Narayani Namostute. One more time. Sarva Mangala Mangalye Shive Sarvartha Sadike Sharanye Triambake Gauri Narayani Namostute. Oh. And one more verse, which I'm just going to say in English. Again, invoking her, asking her to be present with us. O Durga, reliever of all difficulties, remembering you dispels fear for all living beings. When remembered by spiritual seekers, you increase their welfare and intelligence. Who is like you, O dispeller of poverty, pain, and fear, whose loving smile always extends compassionate assistance to everyone? And here she is. So thank you, Durga Ma, for being here for us. And thank you, all of you, forms of Durga Ma in her feminine forms and her masculine forms, because she is all of us. So in many parts of India, Navaratri is dedicated to 9 distinct forms of Durga, and some of them are fierce, some of them are gentle. Each has her own particular mythology. In the West, of course, we associate her with fierceness and energy, but in her essence, she is the one creative Shakti that pervades everything, contains everything, the beautiful and the ugly, the so-called good and the so-called bad. She's the primordial feminine, the creative energy, the Shakti, who's the source of life and death. And she lives in us as the life force within every particle of the universe, which means she's the Big Bang, she's the galaxy, she's the stars, she's the earth, she's our skin, she's our brains, she's our thoughts, and we'll get into that in a minute. And in her personal form as the warrior goddess, she's said to live hidden high up in the Vindhya mountain range in India, where in the stories, the gods gather to beg for her help whenever they get into trouble and have to be saved from demons. So, and if you read the stories carefully, you come across these verses which imply that the gods are the male gods, who are the ones we meet in these stories, are a bit intimidated by Durga's unmediated strength. You know, she's by her great roar, and they prefer to keep her in the background until they need her. So, and the truth is, she has a husband. Shiva is her male consort, but she's not really subject to anyone's control, which is the nature of life energy. Even pranayama can't ultimately control her. So, you know, when I was growing up, there was a TV ad for detergents, I think it was Tide, in which a very annoyed young woman is grabbing the Tide package out of her mother's hands. And she's saying, "No, mother, I'd rather do it myself." And this comes back to me over the years. because this is pretty much how most of us are with the Great Mother. You know, we want to do it ourselves. We want to play in the fields of the world in our own way. And whether you call it ego or independence, you know, individuality, it is the nature of human beings not to want to turn to the divine in the normal course of things. I mean, unless, of course, they're very religious or very deep seekers. Mostly we prefer to stay out of the way of the divine because it's too big a force for most of us. But one of the great metaphors for the traditional relationship to Durga as the mother is the one who's always there in the background, ready to rescue us when we need her. So we go out to play in the world as kids used to do. I don't know if kids do it so much anymore. Back in the day, we used to leave the house after breakfast and come back for lunch for a minute and then stay out until supper time. And, you know, we are proud of our skill and our independence. We don't want to hang around the house, so to speak. But at some point, like, you know, like kids who've played to the point of exhaustion, we want to come home. And that's what this festival is about. It's about how we come home, how she brings us home. Because what Durga's ultimate gift to us is to liberate us from the illusion that this world is finite and thick and difficult, and to help us realize that it is actually made out of particles of love. Its insights are lined with love, as one great Jewish wisdom sage said. So in my experience, the best way to invoke Durga is through mantras, because it's through these sacred sound forms that we come closest to actually experiencing her resonance in our bodies. And again, those of you who do mantra practice know what I'm talking about, that it's the resonance, the vibration of sacred mantras, especially mantras which have been empowered, which have been filled with the energy of great lineages. They actually can penetrate through the thickness, the density of our physical body and heal us at levels that are not possible even with the strongest antibiotics, and certainly not with our normal psychological resources. So we're going to, throughout the program, periodically close our eyes and chant these verses. Everyone. Oops. We get everyone here. Oh, okay, I'm so mostly getting Deb. Carl said, what is the name of the chat? Deb put that up in the chat. So
I just posted it again. Are you wanting?
Okay, so I just want to type something into the chat for everyone to see.
Okay.
You just can't, okay. So, all right, Deb, I'm going to send it to you. You're going to have to send it to everyone.
Okay.
It's not working for me.
It's right here.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you.
There you go.
So this is a tantric version of the standard classic Durga mantra, which many of you may know as Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. So we've added a couple of extra seed syllables. The syllable Hrim represents the capacity of the goddess to create and manifest worlds, and also to spread grace everywhere. And Shrim it's the mantra for Lakshmi, and it represents fundamental auspiciousness, goodness, beauty, harmony, everything that we seek in life. And Dum is the seed mantra for Durga. So we're going to begin, we'll be chanting this periodically and meditating on it a little bit later. So here's how we're going to do it. We'll do it 9 times to begin with. Om, Hrim, Shrim, Dum Durgaye Namaha. Om, Hrim, Shri Dom Durgaye Namaha. And just a tip, if you curl your tongue a little bit back, you'll get a resonance in the back of your throat that actually will start to flow up the central channel from the palate up to the crown and open the chakras in your head, which is a good thing. So, Om Hrim Shri Dung Durgaye Namaha. Om Hrim Shri Dung Durgaye Namaha. Om Hrim Shri Dung Durgaye Namaha. Om Hrim Shri Dum 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 Durgaye Namaha. Two more times. Om Hrim Shri Dum Durgaye Namaha. Om Hrim Shri Dum Durgaye Namaha. And you can close your eyes. And for a moment, let the mantra repeat itself silently in the heart. Om Hrim Shri Dum Durgaye Namaha. Om Hrim Shri Dum Durgaye Namaha. And bring your awareness to the back body, to the back of the heart. And then see if you can actually draw your awareness out to the back of the body and become aware of the space behind you, the area behind you, as the kind of energetic backrest. And you can lean into it just a little bit. See if you can become aware that as you consider that the air behind you is actually alive with resonance and vibration, you can also begin to sense the presence of a benign feminine energy, the goddess embracing you from behind. She's your divine backrest. She's your ultimate backup. She's your refuge, and she's ever present at your back. Though we may find her in different ways in different places, because we can really find her anywhere. So if you want to visualize her, imagine her seated on a lion with long, loose black hair and a crown on her head. She's wearing a red sari. Her vertical third eye is open, indicating that she is not only all pervasive, but also omniscient. She has weapons in her hands, a spear, a trident, a bow, a mace, a chakra. She also has a flower and a rosary and a book. So there's no need to visualize her exactly, but very often when we conceive of her in a form, it helps bring her energy more present. Feel that her energy, her fierce and loving Shakti, is supporting you and protecting you from behind. And now allow the breath to flow in and flow out, feeling that she's breathing you. She's breathing you from behind. She's drawing the breath in and she's sending it out. And with every inhalation, you can deepen the sense of being breathed by the Great Mother. And with every exhalation, you let that breath flow out into the world. Om Hrim Shri Dum Durgaye Namaha. Om Hrim Shri Dum Durgaye Namaha. Just let the mantra ride the breath, allowing it to flow into the heart and out through the heart. Now, take a moment and consider a wish, a longing that is present within you right now. And what at this moment in your life do you long for? Don't think about it too much. Just ask the question and see what arises. Could be something very simple. Could be healing. Could be peacefulness. Could be new love. Could be support or harmony with your family, or blessings for someone you love, or help for Ukraine, or help for the planet, or to live in the grace and luminosity of your own light. Or why not go for it? Total enlightenment. Just find a sense of your own intention. It doesn't have to be just one. So consider that in this space that we occupy together, where Sri Durga Ma really is present, you can ask for this. And personally, I like to ask her for everything. So breathe your longing into the goddess at your back. Ask her to fulfill it. Ask for healing, ask for grace, ask for enlightenment, ask for love, ask for wisdom, ask for all your negativities to be removed. Ask for the creativity that you've always wanted to express in your life. And why not? Better relationships with everybody. And of course, peace and harmony in our nations and in our world. So mantra and story, these are the way we make offerings to the goddess at Navaratri. It's an incredibly universal and popular way to celebrate the divine. So, as you know, Durga has many forms, but the three main ones. And when I celebrate Navaratri, I generally divide the days according to the three forms of the goddess. So each 9 night is divided into 3 sets of 3. Each of them represents a particular aspect of our sadhana journey, personified by one of the goddesses, one of the 3 forms of Durga. And also, in my experience, really personifying the journey of Kundalini from the Muladhara up to the Sahasrara, as she transforms our body, our subtle body, especially from within. So the first 3 nights are about Kali, the powerful warrior and liberator, who does the real heavy lifting when it comes to dissolving our deep-seated negative tendencies and the density in our lower chakras. So the second 3 nights are about Mahalakshmi, the goddess of abundance and beauty. And the last 3 nights, and this is one of them, this is a Saraswati night. The last 3 nights honor Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom and learning and of Brahma Vidya, the knowledge of the absolute, which is really the ultimate gift of this time. So in the Devi Mahatmyam, each one of these goddesses is associated with a particular story of a battle with demons. And in the translation I use, which I'm going to put it in the chat later. This is a 1-hour call, Miroslav. We may go over a little bit. The translation that I use of the Chandipat, for those of you who'd like to read it, of the Devi Mahatmyam, is called Chandipat. It's published by Sri Ma's Ashram, and it's translated by Swami Satyananda Saraswati. So we'll get that information in the chat in case you want to go further into the text, which I've been reading quite voraciously for the last year. It's really an amazing text and filled with resonance and insight. as well as being a kick-ass story, literally. So, um, so in this translation, the word for demon, which is daitya, D-A-I-T-Y-A, is translated as thought. So, and so the demons are they're called thoughts. They're not called demons. And I found that a very useful way to look at them, because of course, at the heart of the Shakta tradition is the understanding that all the negative forces in our lives, as well as the positive forces, are actually thought forms. They're made of thought, and ultimately, what we discover is that the world is made of thought. Thank you, Diane. Devi Mahatmyam or Chandipat. And and that means that they're subtle, that they're very deeply rooted. Of course, most of you know the Sanskrit word for these thoughts, which is samskaras. And it means that they have to be uprooted at a very deep level, but by subtle means. So the mantras that we recite during these days, I mean, indeed, all the great mantras, they're literally encoded. They're like algorithms that flow through the subtle body, and they begin the process of rooting out our internal traces of negative, violent, angry, prideful, thoughts of unworthiness, all of that dross we carry, all of the glitches that we carry in our system. It doesn't happen overnight, as those of you who've been doing sadhana for a while know, and I can certainly tell you from my own experience, but it works over time. These mantras transform you. So, and in transforming us, they transform the disharmony in our personal world, and we hope that they go a little ways towards transforming the harmony in the larger world. But so in her aspect as the destroyer of negative thoughts, ultimately of all thoughts, Durga is known as Chandika, which literally means she who tears away thought. So, and as you can tell, she's a form of Kali, so she's an extremely fierce goddess. And her goal is to dissolve these thoughts. This is really important, not by killing them, not by stabbing them, not by rejecting them, but by dissolving them into her own being, which is our consciousness, which is pure, spacious presence, and which literally can eat up thoughts as long as we're willing to disidentify with them, not to believe them. Even though these stories are full of weapons and fights, and even though the demons are slain in the end and they're pretty fierce, it's very important to understand that all of these, demonic and positive forces arise out of her. And even though the process of liberating ourselves from them can demand a lot of work, effort, activity, prayer, mantra repetition, nonetheless, the process is actually an expression of the love that the infinite consciousness has for all of us. That, the paradox is that the goddess in her form as Maya, as the one who gives us the illusion, that the world is dense and real. Deb has this screensaver up, as I know many of you do, and sometimes the screensaver sort of slips and you see what's behind it. So this is, in a way, it's a great metaphor for the process of sadhana, because we have this screensaver, which is our impressions of the world, and there's a lot of neuroscientific evidence about what that comes from. But every now and then, through grace, the screensaver slips and we see what's really there, which is light, which is us. So, so Durga ultimately is the one who destroys thought. That is, thought being that which causes us to differentiate between me and you and me and the world, and which lands us in endless duality. So, but there are many reasons to invoke her. You don't actually have to go for full enlightenment every day of your life. You can ask her for protection. You can ask her for strength. You can ask her for love. And you can also, she's a very shamanic goddess. You can invoke her the way shamans invoke energies for the protection of the village to actually help the world. But, what we were really after is to remove our darkness, our confusion, and even though we know, because you're all great seekers, we know the light is there. And every time somebody tells me, oh, the light is already there, you just don't see it, I get sort of, yeah, I know that. But even though we all know that, we constantly have to kind of clear out the detritus that stands between us and it, and turn our attention to it, turn our attention to our pure awareness, turn our attention to the light of the heart. And so the more we can give ourselves to the process, the more fearless and loving and free she makes us. Her name means hard to conquer, but actually she's impossible to conquer. There's no way you can beat her, which is what we discover as we read this text. So Durga and the demons and the chakras, this is something that I find quite interesting. So according to the tradition, especially the Kundalini tradition, the most dense and entrenched thought forms are in the lower two chakras, the Muladhara and the Swadhisthana. And in the Shakta tradition, they're personified as particularly primitive and nasty demons, very tamasic demons, who are really represent the height of confusion. And I won't go into the real world examples of them, but their names are Madhu and Kaitab. Their names mean too much and too little. So, which is interesting to think about and worth thinking about. And they are the essential dualities, too much and too little. So they're literally entrenched duality, and Kali uproots them. I'm not going to tell you the story because we don't have time. But the first 3 nights, we could say, are really about tilling the soil of the lower body, uprooting the heaviest and densest energies, and ultimately removing what is called the Brahma Granthi, the knot of Brahman, which is the knot, that actually the contraction in the Muladhara chakra at the base of the spine, at the root of the body, which creates the feeling of ultimate separation between ourselves and the world, and makes it pretty much impossible to recognize that we're all one. And often during the first 3 nights of Navaratri, you really do feel like you're being purified. Qualities like, extreme anger, stagnation, tamasic qualities start to emerge. So the second 3 nights unfold the gifts that we receive when the preliminary purification work is done, which are boons of Mahalakshmi, the goddess of beauty, love, and worldly prosperity, the goddess whom everybody loves and seeks. Lakshmi is the aspect of Durga who represents moisture. That's one of her qualities. She's fluidity, which means she's fertility. And in a dry country like most of India is, fluidity is incredibly important in the Western United States right now. It's really the greatest manifestation of Lakshmi that we could find. And Lakshmi is the goddess of the heart chakra, also of the Manipura. So she's the middle chakras. And the heart, however, gets blocked by the negative qualities, both in the Manipura and in the Anahata. And in the story, the demon who represents them, and this is probably the most famous story in the Durga Mahatmyam, is Mahishasura, the buffalo demon, whose name means great ego. So this is the seat of the ego of ambition, greed, acquisitiveness. He's territorial, he's power hungry. You know those qualities, at least in others, and some of us can see them in ourselves as well. So, and these are the thoughts that keep us striving for dominance and power over others, and which pretty much turn the world into a crazy place. And we have the stories of Mahishasura throughout every century, every eon, every country. There, he's the guy who makes life really tough for all of us. So when these thoughts are conquered, which is what the second series of the second part of the story is about, then the fruit, it's like we uncover Lakshmi's true nature, which is harmony, love, prosperity, and the kind of love that nourishes not only yourself, but everyone else. So, and one of the teachers whose interpretations I like says that when the Lakshmi energy has really purified the heart, then our love is not just for other people. I mean, sorry, not just for the people that we like, not just for the people close to us. It actually can become love for humanity, love for the planet. And those of you who've had those moments, some of you may be living in that, know that it's really worth a lot of practice. So, and the other thing is, when Lakshmi starts to come online, while she's in the process of expanding our love, she also unfolds a lot of little miracles in our lives, large and small miracles, fulfilling personal desires, bringing people we love into our lives, even bringing us quite a bit of harmonious worldly success. And then in the third 3 nights, the goddess in her form is Saraswati, whose nature is pure white light, but she's also, of course, the goddess of music, of learning, of poetry. And the demons there are 2 very sophisticated and aesthetically refined thought forms, whose names, Shumba and Nishumba, translate as self-conceit and self-deprecation, which, wow, is it's very interesting to contemplate this, because Saraswati is the goddess of the upper chakras, of the Ajna chakra, the third eye center, all the way up to the Sahasrara. And in Kundalini lore, it's said that you have to pass the gateway of the Ajna chakra in order for your consciousness to rise to the highest levels that it is capable of rising to. And what blocks the Ajna chakra are the thoughts that come from self-conceit and self-deprecation. Self-deprecation meaning the whole flow of unworthiness, and they come out of our tendency to compare ourselves, either to praise ourselves when we feel successful, or feeling unworthy when we feel we failed. And when we really look at the way this high subtle aspect of the ego manifests, what we probably see is that it's there right up to the end. Every time you make a little progress in your spiritual life, and there's always this part of the ego which goes, oh, look at me, I did so good, I'm so good at this, I'm such a pure being. And every time we don't quite succeed in whatever our meditative or contemplative practice is, and of course this goes for every other area of life, we're all about, oh, I'm such a screw up, I'm such a terrible person. These are the qualities of self-conceit and self-deprecation, and they're incredibly powerful and incredibly subtle. So I would like to invite you to look at how they operate in your life and make a point of every time you see them, offering them to the goddess. So in this story, Durga, after being petitioned by the gods, Shumba and Nishumba have done tapas and been given a boon, which says that they cannot be defeated by men or gods. And of course, they leave a loophole. They don't mention women or goddesses. So after these 2 brothers have driven the gods out of heaven, taken all the sacred objects in the world, enslaved the human race to build their palaces, and bring all the beauty of the world into their own hands, the gods finally go to her, and she says to them, I swear, don't you guys ever come to me until you're in terrible trouble. But then, of course, agrees to help them. And She takes the form of the most beautiful woman that has ever appeared in the universe and reveals herself to the two main ministers of the demon brothers, who are known as, that's actually a good line for a band, the Demon Brothers. Maybe there is one. Their names are Chunda and Munda, and Chunda means passion, and Munda means anger. So these are the ministers of the refined thought forms, and they are thought forms in their own right, of course. So, of course, passion and anger are just riveted by her beauty, and they go to their masters. They say, this is the most beautiful woman in all the world. She's absolutely adorable. You have to have her. You know, you already have all the sacred animals, all the yogic powers. You have the tree of life. You have the divine elephant. You have the horse of wisdom. You have the chariot known as union through breath control. They're masters of pranayama and other forms of yoga. And notice that these two thought forms have taken over all the gifts that come to us through sadhana, and they're filtering them through these egoic qualities. And just, you know, just to give you a little sermonizing here, homily here. Of course, these are the big traps that yawn before us as we start to progress in yoga. You know, it's spiritual materialism, where we begin to cultivate noble qualities and yogic skills in order to feel righteous and good about ourselves, and basically aggrandize our ego in the service of self-conceit and to, you know, dissolve our self-deprecation. I don't know how many of you do yoga in order to feel better about yourselves. I certainly do. Even though I have other reasons for doing it, this is always there. So, you know, whatever it is, I'm the most peaceful person. I've given away the most money. I'm funding cancer research. I do biodynamic farming in Bali. You know, I've done a 3-year retreat. You know, or no matter what I do, I still feel unworthy. I don't know what to do about it. You know, so here we are. And the brothers send their ambassador, Sugriva, whose name means one who appears to be a friend, which is one of the descriptors of the ego. It appears to be your friend, but actually it's not. And Sugriva goes in a friendly way to the goddess, and he says, oh, beautiful one, my masters want you to come and marry them. And she says, oh gosh, you know, that's such a great offer, but I'm just a silly woman. And as a girl, I took a vow that I would only marry someone who can defeat me in battle. And so I'm afraid, you know, vow is a vow. Just go back and tell them this. So that Sugriva, of course, says, lady, you're completely crazy. Not even the gods could defeat self-conceit and self-deprecation. So what makes you think you can do it? She says, what can I do? I have to follow my vow. He goes back to the brothers, and they say, okay, well, we'll send an army and they can drag her off by her hair. So they send a warrior, a thought form called negative outlook, one of the great manifestations of deluded ego, and tells him to drag her away by the hair. And that's when her lion opens his mouth and bites off the head of this particular demon thought form. And then, I'm going to make a long story short, it goes on quite a bit. Then the brothers send an entire army of thoughts to attack her. All the distractions and negativities, which, as we say, attack us even more fiercely as we start to rise to the upper levels of our practice and of our bodies. And you know, these thoughts are associated with the head center, the intellectual center. Of course, they're very prevalent in the computer age because a lot of us spend our time in these etheric spaces where thoughts multiply endlessly. And of course, one of the key moments in this section of the text is when this demon called Rakta Bija, whose blood, meaning blood seed, has a power where every drop of his blood will turn into a warrior. So every time he's hit or hurt, hundreds and even thousands of warriors spring up. And this is where the goddess Kali, manifesting as Chamunda, whose name means the one who tears away thought, appears on the battlefield with her long tongue and licks up the demon blood, thereby destroying thoughts and destroying their effect. And finally, there's, again, many other wonderful bloodthirsty cinematic moments here. And you can read about it in the Devi comic. There's a great comic on the Devi Mahatmyam that you can get, I think, on Amazon. Finally, the goddess kills Chanda and Munda with her sword, and they melt into her feet, which represents that moment when thoughts melt into consciousness. And let's just take a moment and appreciate those moments when the mind becomes still and thought-free. And we're able to see that our minds are light, which is the goddess's great gift. And we're going to now trace the path of Navaratri through the three main spiritual centers, the Muladhara, the heart, and the third eye. We're going to chant Hrim Shrim Dum Durgaye Namaha, first in the Muladhara, then in the heart, and finally in the Ajna Chakra. And I'll guide you, I'll tell you when to move from the Muladhara to the heart, to the Ajna. And of course, you're very welcome to move at your own pace. What I want to ask you to do is to feel your way into the resonance of these mantras, to bring your attention first as deeply as possible into the area at the base of the spine, the area of the perineum, and chant with your attention there. And then when I tell you, or when you're ready, let your attention come into the heart, go into the center of the body, into the heart and the center of the body, and chant the mantras there, and then bring it up to the Ajna Chakra. So you can close your eyes and find a comfortable upright posture. It's also okay to lie down if you need to. So Sasha asks, can you remind us of what the words mean? Yes, the words Hrim, Om is the primordial sound. Hrim is the mantra of the Devi, the goddess, in her creative world manifesting aspect. So it's the mantra which invokes her presence within all worlds. Shrim is intense auspiciousness. And Dum is the seed syllable that's at the core of Durga's manifestation. Durga is she who is difficult to conquer. She's the world mother. So the mantra is, Deb, can you bring it down so everyone can see it? The mantra is Om Hrim Shrim Dum Durgaye Namaha. And we're going to do it silently. Om Hrim Shrim Dum Durgaye Namaha. For some of you, it might become very natural to just do it as Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. That's okay. But the addition of these seed syllables really empowers the mantra in a very broad way. So I'll say it quietly for a few minutes, and then you can pick it up. And with your eyes closed, your posture firm, grounded through the seat. See if you can send your perineum and your buttocks down into the earth, and then let the torso rise from that base, from that grounded base. And focus your awareness in the region of the lower pelvis. And with the breath, aiming the breath at the Muladhara without worrying about whether it actually enters that area. Just let the resonance of the mantra flow with the inhalation and with the exhalation, resonating and vibrating in the Muladhara, clearing and opening this profound area of your body. Om Hrim Shrim Dum Durgaye Namaha. 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 And you can bring your attention and the mantra up to the heart region in the center of the chest behind the breastbone and begin to feel its resonance. Om Hrim Shrim Dum Durgaye Namaha, vibrating in the heart. Om Hrim Shrim Dum Durgaye Namaha. See if you can feel her at your back. So that as the mantras flow in and out through the body, feel that she's breathing them into you through the heart. And you can allow the mantra and your attention to flow up to the space in the center of the head, behind the eyebrows, deep inside the head, above the soft palate. Om Hrim Shrim Dum Durgaye Namaha in the Ajna Chakra. Om Hrim Shrim Dum Durgaye Namaha. Om Hrim Shrim Dum Durgaye Namaha. Om Hrim Shrim Dum Durgaye Namaha. And if it seems appropriate, let your awareness come down to the heart. See if you can feel contact with that presence at your back, and let her accompany you into the rest of the day or the evening or the afternoon. And know, as many of you do, that even when you forget her, she's there and she has your back, and she's wanting only to fill you with love and take away whatever stands in the way of your experience of her love. So I want to tell you about another couple of offerings. One is a workshop on Diwali, the next great goddess holiday, which is on October 24th. And it's through the yogakula.com website. It's on you'll find it on my website, sallykempton.com, under schedule. It's going to be a beautiful 2.5-hour celebration of Lakshmi. And then I also wanted to let you know about a course that is actually available for purchase on my website. It's called Cultivating Shakti, and it's a class that we did last Navaratri that really goes quite deeply into the lore and the inner experience of Shakti, of the goddess, of all of her manifestations within us. We actually work with this mantra in it, and it was very much filled with Durga's grace and Durga's quality. And I thank you to the person who sent her thanks. And I want to apologize for my hoarse, husky voice. I'm having seasonal change voice issue. So yeah, so thank you, Marjan. Cultivating Shakti is actually a good way to bring yourself make yourself more familiar with the goddess. So thank you, Deb, so much. Thank you, all of you, for joining and for helping to create this sadhana circle together. And may you thrive and flourish, prosper, and live in love. Namaste. Deb, would you like to play the chant for just a minute as people are leaving? Tantrakam Devi Suktam.
रौद्रायै नमो नित्यायै गौर्यै दारित्र्यै नमो नमः ज्योत्स्नायै चन्दुरूपिण्यै सुखायै सततं नमः कल्याणे प्रणतां हृद्यै सिद्ध्यै कूर्मे नमो नमः नैऋत्यै बुभृतां लक्ष्म्यै सर्वाण्येति नमो नमः दुर्गायै दुर्गपारायै सारायै सर्वकारिण्यै ख्यात्यै तथैव कृष्णायै धूम्रायै सततं नमः अतिसौम्यातिरौद्रायै नतस्तस्मै
So much
नमो
love to all of
नमः
you.
नमो जगत्